Hell no to the no, no, no. Say hell to the no. Hell no to the no, no, no. Say hell to the no. I'm Bishop Bullwinkle, and I don't believe in infringing on the Second Amendment. I don't care how many shootings there are, we still need them for defense. So I say, hell no to the no, no, no. Say hell to the no. What's up, everybody? Here's a video from Rebel HQ, which is straight garbage. Rebel HQ, the Young Turks. In 2011, I was ripping these dudes down, making videos about these dudes and how they're just straight garbage. I can't believe the Young Turks is still going, to be honest with you. And I believe Jimmy Dore from the Young Turks used to be a Young Turk, and now he has his own show and he's turned into more of a constitutionalist, so to speak. Also, TYT and this Rebel HQ now are jumping onto the auditor bandwagon and injecting their race nonsense, race stuff constantly in every story, including this one about school shootings. So here you got Dan Crenshaw with the eye patch, and then you got Dana Bash, who's another lifelong piece of S, because when I was trying to get Ron Paul elected in 2008 and 2012 and doing the little bit that I could, people like her were bashing him. People like Sean Hannity were bashing Ron Paul, the best presidential candidate we've had in over 200 years, in my opinion. She was bashing him. Sean Hannity was bashing him. Everyone on TV was bashing him. These so-called conservatives who aren't conservative at all. They got this thing now going called Uniparty, which is basically means the two parties. I used to call them the Republicrats and the Demopublicans, but Uniparty really rolls off the tongue. They are the two wings of the same bird flying in the same direction. They disagree on a few things, but for the most part, they agree on war. They agree on the police state. They agree on taxes. They agree on victimless crimes. They believe in all this stuff the courts do. They believe in it all. They did it. They did it to you. The Uniparty did it. The two parties together, the Uniparty, they did this to you. So here we go. School shootings, Dana Bash, Ron Paul hater. Dan Crenshaw says you can't get rid of guns. And this Rebel HQ crap finds a way to insert race into the story. I'm going to be pausing. If you don't like it, I'm sorry. Here's the name of the video. How Dan Crenshaw, asinine master plan won't fix gun violence. His plan is asinine. Listen to this.
You're not going to get rid of guns. And I'm not going to say that people can no longer, that law-abiding citizens cannot defend themselves anymore and exercise their Second Amendment rights and think that's going to stop mass violence. People will figure out other ways to commit mass violence once they've unfortunately reached that point in their life. It's tragic and it's sad, and a lot of people, we don't understand what's happening, what's inside their heads, and so we look to these other solutions that I think aren't viable.
We're not going to do anything about guns. Dan Crenshaw joins the chorus of Mike Rounds, Tim Burchett.
We're not going to do anything about guns. Guns have nothing to do with it. It's the intent behind the gun. People kill people. Pencils don't misspell words. Spoons didn't make me fat. Nails don't hammer themselves.
Both representative and senator, to talk about how they have absolutely no interest in it. Remember that? I'm going to show you guys. These two guys.
No interest in infringing on the Second Amendment? Good. We don't want them to infringe on the Second Amendment.
Watch.
It's a horrible, horrible situation, and we're not going to fix it. Criminals are going to be criminals.
When we start talking
See, that's a short little clip. We're not going to fix it. Who is that guy?
about bans or challenging on the Second Amendment, I think the things that have already been done have gone about as far as we're going to with gun control.
You can't control guns. Over 400 million guns in this country. If there was a gun problem and there's 400 million guns in this country, we would all know about it. The guns don't do anything by themselves.
It's gone about as far as we're going to go on gun control. We're not going to do anything about it. We're not going to do anything about this gun problem.
What is there you can do? Every time there's a gun problem, every time there's a shooting, the first thing they do is call another guy with a gun.
So before we start lumping him with these other folks who said absolutely nothing, or actually they said a lot, how much they're not going to do, let's let Dan talk about his actual plan. He did give us one.
The truth of the matter is, if we had a minimum of 2 armed guards or police officers at every single school in America, you'd probably prevent these from here on out.
So I disagree with the police officer part, but I do agree with armed, competent men in schools who are not going to entangle themselves with the day-to-day goings-on of the students, but are going to make sure, and their focus is going to be on stopping any outside threat from coming, inside or outside threat from coming in and hurting children. That is a good solution. When I go to the bank by where my friend lives, there's an armed guard there at all times with a .357 Magnum as long as the bank is open. You think anyone's going to go rob that bank? Or is the paper money inside the bank worth more than the children's lives inside of the school?
Well, shouldn't helping save the lives of children be a top priority for you as a member of the House majority?
Yeah. That's why he said we should have defense at the schools. That's why we should have defense at the schools. And again, if you didn't call a gunman every time another gunman came, you'd be a hypocrite.
No, it absolutely should be, which is why I say I would look to the thing that would absolutely stop this, which is putting armed police officers at every school.
Competent armed guards, not police officers. Because we all know police officers in this day and age are not competent. They don't even know the most basic of fundamental laws that they enforce. So 2 competent armed guards at the schools, and it might not eliminate it 100%, but it's going to deter anybody because these people are trying to kill as many people as they can and then probably off themselves or have the cops off them. They have a death wish to begin with. So let the death wish happen outside the perimeter. 2 competent armed guards, they take them down. They see someone coming with a gun, they could just pick them off right there. It's not that hard of a shot for someone that's competent.
I visit a lot of schools. I do talks at various schools. It's very rare that I go into a school, especially the newer ones, and they don't have some kind of armed police presence there at all times. So that's a preventive measure. That I know will stop this. And there was nothing like that in these last few matches.
It'll prevent it. Competent security guards will prevent it. You can't stop everything. It's impossible. That world doesn't exist.
Shootings. There's no armed guards there.
Dan Crenshaw visits schools and has speeches at them, and what he noticed that some of these new schools, they got armed guards at every location, and that has eliminated the problem completely. Absolutely means nothing to do with our schools because there's tons of schools in the nation that don't have armed guards, and they haven't had a school shooting either.
So did it stop the problem? Yes or no? Why'd you gloss over that?
So it doesn't really match up for what you're saying is I'm going to guarantee and let you know that that's the problem. That's actually what's going to change things.
And why do you think it won't change things?
By the way, before we dismantle more of this ridiculous argument, he had more ridiculousness, though. Listen.
So the answer is more guns.
No, the answer is armed guards.
No, again, Dana Bash trying to create a narrative here. It's not more guns. We couldn't possibly have any more guns. It's competent people armed with those guns who use them as tools of self-defense to keep children from being murdered. No, it's not as basic as, oh, so more guns.
No, the answer is armed guards, right? Armed guards, yes, more guns. The kind of guns that protect the president, that protect you all at CNN. Is it easy to get into your headquarters at CNN?
Oh, did you see her flinch right there? Watch her flinch. When he said the same armed guards that protect you at CNN and protect the White House, she goes,
more guns. The kind of guns that protect the president, that protect you all at CNN. Is it easy to get into your headquarters at CNN? Absolutely not. There's armed guards there. There's single points of entry. I think we should look at our schools as a place that is precious and have the same kind of security that your corporate offices do, that we do in Congress.
At least that much security.
You know, if we consider a place to be important where our children go to learn every day, it should have the same level of security as every other place, whether it's a shopping mall or a corporate office that's hard to get into. You're not going to get rid of guns.
This is a rambling response. What it is that he just said about shopping malls being somehow locked down with armed security, what are you talking about? That's another place where a lot of these shootings happen, is shopping centers. So there's armed guards.
Yeah, so shopping centers logistically have multiple 10 plus openings for you to get into. There's no checkpoints at the malls. It's a wide open space, and it would be impractical, and the business would lose money if they had to employ a whole security force for the whole mall. That's why you allow people to carry constitutional carry, which I believe DeSantis just signed into law. Good job, dude. You let, like, and again, the one mall shooting was stopped by a kid, and he shot less than 8 rounds and stopped the threat immediately. Good guy with a gun. It's the only common sense thing.
Guards, all these shopping centers, that it doesn't happen, it's made up. It's not reality. This is what he's doing. Either he has no idea what's going on, or he's absolutely, oh no, either he has no idea what is going on, or he does, and he just wants to push this and kick it down the road until people stop talking about it. And we have another school shooting. He collects more checks. He thinks he can promote himself based off of this and get reelected.
He collects checks and promotes himself off school shootings. As a matter of fact, you guys use school shootings to consistently and continuously try to step on the Second Amendment and infringe on the Second Amendment. You're projecting right there.
That's the plan. The plan is definitely not to stop kids from being shot in schools.
So having competent armed guards at the school is not a plan to stop people from intruding into schools and killing children. Who's not making sense now?
And outside of kids, how about adults? How about other folks? How about elderly people that don't want to be shot in the chest because they've made it to 85 years old?
Oh, good question. So if an elderly person who's 85 encounters a 300-pound man who wants to do harm to her or him, and they pull out a 380 and shoot him, all of a sudden the threat is gone and the threat is equalized. It doesn't matter if you're this tall or this big, because now a 380 doesn't care how tall you are or how big you are. It's going to stop you in your tracks, especially with some nice hollow points in it. You're an idiot, dude.
How about that? We don't want to protect anybody in this country. We're just going to go to let.
Who said we don't want to protect anybody? Who said that? He said protect the children with armed guards. Are you delusional?
And they keep happening. Now, by the way, let's address this ridiculous plan of 2 armed guards at every school in America. The same schools that don't have much to pay for teachers.
Okay, now you're going to get into politics. He's going to say it costs billions of dollars to put 2 armed guards at every school. And now he's going to say they don't get the funding they need now. That has nothing to do with it. We pay trillions in taxes, billions, trillions, whatever it is. They could take some of that money from somewhere else, like a turtle exploration program, or to see how many times a hummingbird flaps its wings in 30 seconds, and put that towards protecting our children. Maybe buy 1 or 2 less fighter jets a year from Raytheon or whoever makes them, and put that money towards school. This argument right here is straight garbage he's about to give. Because the politicians don't put the money in the right places, we have to ban the Second Amendment. Think about this logic.
And their salaries to actually accommodate for the amount that they're having to pay for general life. How about supplies? How about transportation? All these things that schools are suffering from. We're not paying for any of that, but we're going to pay for armed guards at every school.
Well, if you don't have live children to use the supplies, safety's first, is it not? Safety's first. So you want supplies, you want all this stuff, and you want what? To give them to children who are sitting ducks for the next gunman. Because having armed guards protecting children is a ridiculous and asinine master plan. Won't work. But it works for banks. It works for the White House. It works for corporations. It works for celebrities. It works for the president. It works for everybody else having competent gunmen around. But it doesn't seem to work for schools for some reason. You're really flipping me on this, guy. Jayar Jackson.
Let's look at this, because Fred Wellman went on Twitter and dispelled this ridiculous point for one aspect of it, because there's multiple. He tweeted this: armed guards, single points of entry. Instead of even the most popular gun reforms, his answer is turning thousands of schools into armed compounds.
False. Armed guards, single points of entry instead of even the most popular gun reforms. What is the most popular gun reforms? And name me one gun reform that's going to stop a school shooting. Hasn't happened yet. Which one of your gun laws has so far stopped a school shooting? And he wants to turn, instead of the most, his answer is turning thousands of schools into armed compounds. Armed compounds? 2 armed guards is an armed compound? You sound stupid. There are 116,000 schools. That's 232,000 armed guards minimum. Well, there's 1 million cops. There's like 4 cops to every citizen, it seems like. If a cameraman goes on the sidewalk, there's 11 cops there to stop him. But for some reason, when there's a school shooting, there's no cops. What are we talking about? Take some of the cops, put them at the school, not the cops, train armed guards, and take some of that tax money you give to incompetent police officers who don't even know the law and put it towards protecting our children with competent armed guards, not police officers. To a minimum 50,000 salary apiece, that's like 116 billion alone. Now, 116 billion might sound like a lot of money, but in the grand scheme of things, 2 fighter jets, 1 spending bill, they'll write out a piece of paper in Congress for $1 trillion and not blink twice. But spending 116 billion in taxes to protect children so they can learn in school, it's too much money. But we can fight wars all around the world. That doesn't cost nothing.
This is the part that sticks. There are 116,000 schools. That's 232,000 armed guards at minimum. He said minimum 2 guards at each school. And at $50,000 salary apiece, that's like 116 billion alone. What an asinine idea.
What an asinine idea to spend a fraction of the taxes we pay every year to protect the children at school so they can use the supplies they don't get.
I did the math. It's actually 11.6 billion. So not 116 billion. 11.
Oh, it's not 116. It's 11.6 billion. So it's 1/10 of what he even put in his tweet. Come on, people. 11.6 billion. Let's see how much a damn fighter jet costs. How much does a new fighter jet cost the government? 75 million. So, oh, what's this? F-35 deal will see prices rise. The unit of fighters will average about 75 million per fighter. So 1 fighter plane, 75 million. So 10 fighter planes, 750 million. So you need 100 fighter jets worth of money could protect every child in the school. And that's just, you're just skimming right there. 11.6 billion in the grand scheme of things of this country is nothing to protect the children. I hope this audio is not cracking.
6 billion. How much money has a Republican congressman set aside for this armed guard?
Again, you're talking about the Uniparty. Stop voting for the Uniparty and you won't have these complaints. You vote them in. You vote the Uniparty in, not me.
At every school and reinforcing and changing the doors and putting no windows in the damn places. How much are they looking to allocate for this? 11.6 billion a year, by the way, minimum, at schools that they couldn't give a hot damn about in any other aspect.
And you give a damn about the schools because why? Because you don't want the children protected with armed guards? What is your solution? Infringing on the Second Amendment will never work. It will only cause more strife between the citizens and the government and will eventually lead to civil war. You're pushing for civil war when you push against our Second Amendment rights. We're the only country still left in the world that still has it. And it's the reason we haven't been completely taken over by the government. Because they know if things pop off, they're going to lose. And people say, oh, the government has nuclear missiles. Unless they nuke women and children in blanket areas of the country, the nukes don't matter. There's 100 million plus gun owners in this country. If 5-10% of us had the inkling, that's it.
And by the way, Burbank, I know I've been rambling and going at this for a very long time, but one more part here, because if outside of paying for all these school personnel and SROs at every school, how about what some of these schools that do have SROs there?
And he brings a point up here where school resource officers are actually doing things like this.
That sometimes happens. How about this? Watch.
All right, don't move. You spit on me, I'll put a hood on you.
In a North Carolina elementary school, a student...
I'm going to fast forward.
Crime before?
Scene played out. Federal data from the most... Our analysis found black...
Oh.
Federal data from the most recent school year available shows 715 students 5th grade or younger arrested at school.
Which is disgusting, and another reason why I say don't put cops in there. Put competent people who are firearms trained.
And our analysis found black, and disabled elementary students were disproportionately more likely to be arrested than white students or those with no disability.
That's how you inject race into the conversation.
Kids that actually wouldn't be affected, which Dan Crenshaw has no problem with, because that doesn't affect him, Jessica.
Dan Crenshaw has no problem with what? You just projected something on him.
It's a pretty ridiculous argument.
Yeah, it's a ridiculous argument, and he's arguing against something that wasn't even a case made on the other side. No one said we need a full ban of all guns in the United States and to take every single person's gun away. That's just like not.
That's what it leads to. That's what it always leads to. Registration leads to confiscation. Case in point. You register your vehicle, they can confiscate it off the roads like they always do. Registration always leads to confiscation. It's an infringement. Do not infringe on the Second Amendment. And I don't care if you say, we're just trying to take a little bit of your gun rights. That's what they've been doing over the last 200 years. And now we have thousands of gun laws on the books that no one could possibly memorize unless they made a career out of it. What you're saying is an incremental approach to confiscation and the complete evisceration of the Second Amendment. You're pretty, though, and you have nice hair, and you look like you smell good.
Legislation that is on the floor that's going to pass. That's not what's popular in the United States. What's being considered is common sense gun reform.
Common sense gun reform. Another buzzword, common sense gun reform. I haven't seen any common sense from these two so far. Who gets to decide what's common sense? The founder said, do not infringe. That sounds common sense to me. Do not infringe on my rights and my property. Sounds right to me. That's common sense. It's my stuff. Don't touch it.
To ensure that, as the Second Amendment says, we have a well-regulated militia, right? The right to bear arms is so we have a well-regulated militia. And so if the purpose of this amendment is that, government can sometimes be, tyrannical, like we can have tyranny and they can get carried away and they have
sometimes, no, it happened and a lot of blood was spilled, so you can sit here and make this point.
Too much power. And so his solution is, let's just live in a militarized police state. Let's just put armed guards. Let's go through TSA if we want to go shopping in the mall. Let's make.
Dude, we're already a police state, first of all. Where have you been living on? Oh, you're TYT. I forgot. What else did she say? Let me go back 1 second. A police state. Never mind.
The kids go through TSA to go to school. And then, of course, what are the consequences? Kids are getting arrested. It's absolutely absurd. It doesn't make any sense. I don't want to have to go through TSA just to go shopping. And it's weird that he says, we want Americans to be able to have guns to protect themselves, which goes to show, what do you think the solution is here? When you give someone a gun or when there's a gun sale, you say, do you promise to only use this, for hunting and to protect yourself? Like, do you promise to not shoot anybody? Like, it doesn't make.
It's not a promise. It's what 99.9% of Americans do with their guns by default. There's no promises needed. The facts are there. The precedent is there. There isn't a huge problem with guns. You're taking this much of an issue with guns and turning it into this whole bedroom. That's what you're doing right now.
Sense the way they're talking about this. And then, of course, you have Burkett, who says criminals are going to be criminals. And I would just love for us to cut that soundbite and just put it with, I don't know, Donald Trump getting indicted, put it against when they're talking about being tough on crime. Criminals are going to be criminals. That's really your answer to this problem.
Criminals are going to be criminals, and the only way to stop them from doing bodily harm is to shoot them. Unless you can find, if they have lethal ability on their person, you need lethal ability to stop them. And you, hypocrite, call a guy with a gun every time there's a problem. As a matter of fact, people like you call guys with guns if someone's parked in your neighborhood that you don't recognize. You're the biggest hypocrites in the world when it comes to guns.
It's bad policy.
Well, because it's.
I can't watch no more. Your bad policy. The name of this video is How Dan Crenshaw's asinine master plan won't fix gun violence. The way he does it, no. You don't put police officers there. Competent, armed, firearms trained security guards. 1 or 2 at every school, depending on the size. You got to go by proportion and geography, of course. And where do you get the money to pay for it? Get rid of these other stupid programs that suck up well over $11 billion a year and put it towards protecting our children the same way you use gunmen to protect your neighborhoods. You use gunmen to protect the White House, the president, the senators. Everyone has a gunman protecting them except the kids. It's common sense that all those other people get to be protected and guarded by gunmen, but our children aren't good enough for some reason to be protected by trained, competent armed guards. TYT's a joke. This Rebel HQ's a joke. They find a way to throw race into every conversation. That, to me, those are the racists. You're racist, dude. You find a way to put race into every story. All right, guys. Thank you. Have a good day. I'm about to go pick up Jesse. We're going to hang out. We're going to play some 2K. And that is what it be, and it's going to be what it is. All right? Have a good day. Thanks for watching. Peace and chicken grease. Bye.